Let me get the,
there we go.
All right, now we're recording, so now you're good.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We are on we left off at the bottom of Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis. Today is Daf of Kuf Nun Zayin, which is the end of the last blot in Masechah Shabbos. Today's Daf has been generously sponsored by the Gertzfeld family in remembrance of our late friend Gil's father, Yechiel Michel. Actually, I saw his name somewhere, but let me see if I can get it. Apologize. Mentions a schus for Ilui Neshama. Let me see if I have the name. Yechiel Michel Cohen Gertzfeld. That was the name I was given, so I don't have much more, but there should be an aliyah for the neshama. So we got to the Mishnah at the bottom of Kuf Nun Vav Amud Beis, probably around 10 lines from the bottom. So Mechatkin said Deluyan, we saw also this Mishnah earlier. Mechatkin said Deluyan Lifnei HaBehema. One is allowed to go ahead and cut up a gourd in front of behemoths and machlekes as to is hard or soft, and we had that previous. But now we're going to come to another issue. So you can go ahead and cut up a gourd lifnei behema. That's a nevela lifnei kalavim, and also a nevela in front of a carcass in front of dogs. They eat from the carcass. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, however, this is the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who argues, we'll soon see, with Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, imlo haisa nevela me'er Shabbos asur lifi she'ena mina muchan. Says no. Rabbi Yehuda says opposite. If it were talking about a carcass that only became a carcass on Shabbos, then it's okay. But if it came, if it was a carcass from before, so therefore it was already considered a carcass going into Shabbos, so you can feed it. But if it's something that basically died on Shabbos, so therefore it wasn't muchan, it wasn't ready to be dog food on Shabbos. So therefore that would be considered to be muksa according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. As we soon see, or as we've seen throughout the Masechta, there's a machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon is very makil when it comes to muksa, and Rabbi Yehuda is more machmer. So Itamar. So we'll see the parentheses. Amar Ula halach Rabbi Shimon, halach Rabbi Yehuda. Excuse me. So Ula says the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda that we're more machmer, that it's usher. And Rav Savar halach Rabbi Yehuda in the karche de zuze. We see also that in another case that Rav paskins like Rabbi Yehuda from the case of where they paskin regarding these mats, these reed mats, I guess, used for shipping, and therefore those were not really prepared for Shabbos. So the Rav Aser Shmuel Shari, but the fact that Rav Aser, it must be that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, and Shmuel, who says mutter, holds like Rabbi Shimon. And the Af Levi, and even Levi Savar halach Rabbi Yehuda, halachas Rabbi Yehuda, the Ramachmer Kihada Levi. When you go ahead and bring a treif in front of Rabbi Yehuda to Levi to inspect this treifa on Yantif, to know whether they can shecht it or not, or whether it's kosher food. So they would only go ahead and basically check it in the garbage heap. Why? He said, perhaps I'll say it is a treifa, and therefore, since this animal died on Shabbos, but it wasn't a carcass before Shabbos, so therefore it's not even mutter for a human to eat, and it's not mutter for an animal to eat because it was not prepared for Shabbos, and therefore we see that Levi holds like Rabbi Yehuda. However, Ushmuel Amar halach Rabbi Shimon. The Shmuel says halachas like Rabbi Shimon. Like Shmuel said earlier, when it came to those mats, he said those were mutter, those are considered to be prepared. Vav Zeiri said halach Rabbi Shimon. Even Zeiri was makil, and he held like Rabbi Shimon. The Tanai within the Mishnah, behemah mesa loyis zenim kema. If an animal dies, one should not go ahead and move the animal from its place. The Tegima Zeiri, and as Zeiri explained, the behemoth's kudshim, we're only talking about animals kudshim because you can't move it. Why? Because you're not going to get hana from kudshim even after it dies. You can't get any sort of benefit. But if it's only chulin, then it'll be mutter. So you see, according to here, since according to Zeiri you can move it, it's not muksa, and therefore, since it's not muksa, he holds like Rabbi Shimon. The Yaf Rabbi Yochanan Omer halach Rabbi Shimon. Even Rabbi Yochanan said we're makil and halach is like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to muksa. Or I asked, Umi Omer Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan say this? Omer Rabbi Yochanan halach kastam mishnah. The halach is always like a stam mishnah. In other words, if we have a mishnah and it does not say who the author is, so that's called a stam mishnah. And the halacha is usually like that opinion, that anonymous opinion. And Utanan, we learned in the Mishnah. What was the Mishnah? There was a stam Mishnah. So the Mishnah says, turn the page. Ein mavkin eitzim min hakuros One is not allowed to go ahead and basically take wood from the beams on Shabbos, right? And also one that broke, because these were not basically prepared to use as fuel from before Shabbos. So since it's not prepared, so therefore, according to this Mishnah, it appears to be like we're more machmer, or we hold like Rabbi Yehuda. So our answer is no. Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Yasi bar Yehuda masnila. So no, that wasn't a stam Mishnah. That wasn't an anonymous Mishnah. Rather, Rabbi Yechanan says that was a Mishnah that was stated like Rabbi Yasi bar Yehuda. Rabbi Yasi was someone's opinion. So since it was someone's opinion, it doesn't necessarily mean the halacha is like that case. So Tashma, come listen. One is allowed to go ahead and start using straw, right? That from bundles, right, or from a wood that was out in the muksa. Muksa is basically like a storage house that wasn't commonly used. It wasn't prepared for Shabbos. So we see that one is allowed to go ahead and you can't use the wood that was wasn't prepared. So what do you see? Like it's according to Rabbi Yehuda. So my answer is Hasam ba'arze ba'ashuchi. Over there, we're talking about cedars of shuchi de muksa machmas chisron kis. Now, this is muksa because of muksa machmas chisron kis. There's something that was muksa because it's very expensive. It's very expensive. It doesn't want to be damaged. So therefore, that's not allowed to go ahead and be handled on Shabbos. The Afilu Rabbi Shimon Maida, and even Rabbi Shimon in such a case would say normally holds a muksa. It's not muksa, but something is very expensive. Then even Rabbi Shimon would agree that's muksa. So Tashma, come and listen. Aid mashkin v'sheich li'asamid. One cannot go ahead and give drink, right, or go ahead and shech an animal from midbarios, a wild animal that comes from the outside because it wasn't prepared before Shabbos. Before Shabbos, it was all the way out in the wilderness. But mashkin v'sheich li'asamid. But the one that was domestic animals, the ones that were close, one would be allowed to go ahead and deal with such an animal. In other words, it's not muksa. And so, what do you see? So, what do you see from over here? So, you see that you can't use ones that would be like Rabbi Huda. So, my answer is Rabbi Yochanan stam achrina ashkech. No, Rabbi Yochanan actually has another stam mishnah which holds like to support him, and it says over there Beis Shammai magbin mi'al hashulchan atzamus klibin. So, Beis Shammai says you can go ahead and remove from the table bones after food was eaten from it, or klipas or shells, and it's not muksa. Masalik is a tavla kula menara. No, you can't go ahead and move it. They're muksa like Rabbi Yehuda. You have to go and shake it. The Amar Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman anon ein lanu ela Beis Shammai Rabbi Yehuda Beis Hillel Rabbi Shimon. We don't even have. We actually have the opposite, right? It says Rav Nachman. He says no, it doesn't have what to do. Rather, is befavorish that Beis Shammai says like Rabbi Yehuda, and Beis Hillel says like Rabbi Shimon. And pligiba Rav Acha v'Ravina. As a machlokes between Rav Acha and Ravina. Chad Omer b'chol Shabbos kula halach Rabbi Shimon lebar muksa machmas mius. One opinion held that regarding the halach Shabbos, we hold like Rabbi Shimon, except for when something is muksa machmas mius. If something is muksa machmas mius, it's disgusting, right? And therefore, it's not really fit for Shabbos. Therefore, even Rabbi Shimon would agree that that is considered to be muksa. Mind you, what is that? Ner yashan, basically a candle that was used. The candle was used. Therefore, it's not fit for Shabbos, and therefore it's muksa. The other one says no, but muksa machlas mius nami l'char Shimon. Even in that case, halachas like Rabbi Shimon that it's not muksa. Labar. So what's the case where they agree? Labar min muksa machmas iser, something which is muksa machmas iser. Now, something that can potentially do an iser. Remind you, what is that? Ner she'likuba. And a candle that's lit, right? If a candle's lit, so what is this? This is perhaps one will go ahead and extinguish the candle, and therefore that would be an isser. So therefore, such a thing is considered to be muksa. Mind you, initially about Shabbos, and Shabbos, muksa machlas chisron kis. But if it's just in terms of something that was very expensive, I feel Rabbi Shimon Maida, even Rabbi Shimon will be Maida. The Tanan kolakedel nitlin b'Shabbos, he would agree that's muksa. There was any utensil can be used on Shabbos. Chutz mimasar agadol v'yaseh shel machrish, except for a saw, a very expensive saw, which was used for good wood, and also for a basically one of the plows, the knives and stuff that work on a plow. Fine. Now Mishnah, the final Mishnah of Masechah Shabbos.
You said that Rabbi Yochanan had a different Stam Mishnah, but that Stam Mishnah was Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. It's not really a Stam Mishnah.
So he had Okay, here he's saying. So the first way, let me see for a second. So now it's Samachrin Beis Hillel Chashiv Kastam. No, so Rashi says, right? So Beis Hillel Chashiv Kastam. Just like we hold, like this halacha is like a Stam Mishnah. In other words, the strength of machlokes between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai is just like that of a Stam Mishnah. Good question, and Rashi addresses it. Shkayach. Now the Mishnah says, Zak the Mishnah. One can be mefer a neder on Shabbos. Now, to be there's two different things: there's hafaras nadarim and hataras nadarim. Right? To be mefer a neder is only that is how it's done between a husband and a wife. A husband has the koyach to be mefer to nullify a wife's vow. He doesn't need a beis din. He doesn't have to go in front of a or yachad mumcha. Right? He can go ahead if he hears a neder and he is not pleased with the neder. He can go ahead and nullify the neder of the wife. That's
also his daughter. Also his daughter, right? Unmarried daughter.
I believe it has to. I think it's the wife. I could be mistaken. But normally it has to do with the wife because a husband, basically, there are certain roles that a wife has to play, right, in the household, and therefore, if she doesn't want to do it, he can override basically her not wanting to do it.
Right.
So, but you can go ahead and be matir, the other nadar. Anything that's not husband and wife can go ahead and be permitted in front of a beis din or in front of a halacha expert. So anyway, so mafir nadar b'Shabbos. One is allowed to go ahead and be made fair to nullify a nadar on Shabbos. And you're allowed to go ahead and be shayel and basically go to a beis din, right, to go ahead and have them be matir a neder on Shabbos. So two different things. One is hafara, and the other one is shayel. But if you notice, and the Mishnah, the Gemara will pick up on this, we say mafir nadarim b'Shabbos, and then we say you can be shayel nadarim for the purpose of Shabbos. So the question is, the hafaras nadarim does it have to do with Shabbos or it can be anything in general? We'll see. The paikin as a maor, one can go ahead and basically, we've seen this halacha earlier, can put the shutter back into the window. As a matlis, you can even go ahead and measure. We're not worried of the chol. You can go ahead and measure a matlis, a cloth, to see if it was the right size for tuma. As a mikvah, you can go ahead and measure a mikvah. We'll soon see this Maisa that they went ahead, they plugged up the shutter as a makida begami le'idea im yesh begigis pasech tefach im lav. They went ahead and they plugged it up with a vessel. We'll soon see, and they tied basically some sort of measuring utensil that was 1 by 1 tefach to a reed, and they lowered it to see if the hole in the barrel was a size of a tefach or not, and we'll soon explain what's going on here. And from there, from the fact that they allowed them to go ahead and to close up the shutter, to go ahead and lower down to measure. So from this Maisa, Shapaikin, one is allowed to go ahead and basically close up a shutter, and go ahead and measure v'kaisha b'Shabbos, and also tie something that's not a permanent knot on Shabbos. Fine, let's see the Gemara. So the Gemara says, now first in the first part, we said, it can be made for a neder on Shabbos, and it can be shayel a neder l'tzarech Shabbos. So hafara, is it bein l'tzarech, bein shelo l'tzarech? Is it something that has to do with Shabbos or not Shabbos? In other words, let's say a woman says, I will not make a neder, I'm not going to go ahead and prepare cholent, right? Or, serve the cholent, serve the meals. So if it's l'tzarech Shabbos, so I understand. Or is it something, right? I'm not going to go ahead and do so. I'm not ever going to shopping to Jewel on Monday, right? So what is it? Is it which is shalom l'tzarech Shabbos? So do we say hafar ben l'tzarech ben shalom l'tzarech v'sheilo l'tzarech? But that which we said shayel, in other words, only the case of a non-husband and wife to be shayel l'tzarech in shalom l'tzarech no, but only that has to do whether only is for Shabbos, not the purpose of Shabbos. Then you can't go ahead and be matir the neder on Shabbos. And therefore we have two different cases. There's mafir nadar b'Shabbos, and then it says nishal nadar, right? And then it splits up in two. It could have just said mafirin of nishalin nadar b'Shabbos, but it didn't do that. Split up. So they didn't split up because that's two different. One is because it even shalom l'tzarech Shabbos, and it was only l'tzarech Shabbos. Aydilma hafar nam l'tzarech, or maybe even hafar when a husband can be made for his husband or his wife's neder. It's also only l'tzarch in shalom l'tzarch, but it's not for the purpose of Shabbos. Then he's not allowed to do it. Yeah, the reason why these separate in two different phrases, because one does not require the use of a basin, the other one does require the use of a basin. So Tashma, come and listen. Detani zute debe Rav Papa mafina dam Shabbos l'tzarch Shabbos. So it says it says Rav Papa, a husband could go ahead and be made for his wife's nadarim on Shabbos, l'tzarech Shabbos, for the purpose of Shabbos. So l'tzarech Shabbos ish, l'tzarech Shabbos lo. It sounds like beferish only for the purpose of Shabbos, but if it's for Monday shopping and jewel, then he would not be able to go ahead and nullify her vows then. Lishna achrona, some have a different version and a different question. L'tzarech, that what you say l'tzarech is atavayu tani. Is it on both of them? Ushalo l'tzarech lo, but if it's not l'tzarech, you can't do it. Alma, what do you see from here? Hafaras nadarim me'es li'es. The reason why is because Hafaras nadarim is me'es li'es. Now, whenever he hears about it, normally from the moment you hear about it is when the time clock begins as to when you're supposed to be nullify the neder. You can't just nullify 2 weeks after you hear it, right? So over here it says whenever he hears it, he has 24 hours. So if he hears about it Shabbos morning, he has till Sunday morning. So therefore, there's no need to do it on Shabbos. So you can just do it afterwards. And therefore, unless it's for the purpose of Shabbos, just wait till after Shabbos. Or maybe maybe that what you said only for Letzarech is only going on being mater and neder for Shelahu Diktari. For us, and when it comes to a husband nullifying his wife's vow, even if it's not for the purpose of Shabbos. Amo, why do you see him there? It only has to do with that calendar day. Since he heard it on Saturday, so therefore he only has the Saturday that day until Shabbos ends. Once Shabbos ends, you're not allowed to be made for the nether anymore. And therefore, even Shalom Tzarech Shabbos, you can't do anything about it. So therefore, we will allow you to go ahead and be mefer it on Shabbos. So Toshma, come and listen. The Tani Rav Zute Debei Rav Papi Mafir Nadarim b'Shabbos L'Tzarech HaShabbos. So it says the Farish once again. Rav Papi says one could be mefer a neder on Shabbos for the purpose of Shabbos. So it says, we infer from there, L'tzarech HaShabbos in, Shalom L'tzarech HaShabbos lo. Right? Only for the purposes of Shabbos can you do it. However, as I do a Shabbos, then you have to wait till afterwards. You can't do it. Alma Hafaras Nadarim Yesle. Therefore, we see you have 24 hours to go ahead and make for another, and it must be just wait till Sunday morning to go ahead and do it. And Amar Rav Ashi, I've and Tanan Hafaras Nadarim Kol Hayom. Right? We learned that Hafaras Nadarim is you have the entire calendar day. V'yesh b'davar lahakil lahachmer. And within this matter, there's a kula and a chumrah. Ketzad hasa nadra leili b'Shabbos. If it took place on Friday night, that it may fair leili Shabbos v'yam Shabbos ad shetishaf. Then you have a long period of time. You can go ahead. You have the night. You have up until Shabbos ends. However, nadrim chashecha. But let's say she made her neder at the end of Shal Shudas. Then mefer ad shaloi teshav. You only go ahead and be mefer up until it gets dark. Right? If you can't go ahead and if you don't go ahead and nullify then you lost your opportunity. So we see over here that it's not miyes liyes, it's only the calendar day. So Gemara says tonight, the time of the Brayso, Hafaras Nadarim Kol Hayom. You have the entire day, and Rabbi Yossi, in other words, only the calendar day. And Rabbi Yossi, Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, Amru miyes liyes. They say you get 24 hours. Fine. Then he shalom the darm. Now we shalom the darm. So Gemara says, is it only if he didn't have the opportunity to go ahead and be matir before Shabbos, or even if he had the opportunity before Shabbos, he went ahead and had it matir on Shabbos? So Tashma, come and listen. There's Kikule Rabbanon the Rav Zuche Berei the Rav Zira v'Sharlei Nadari v'Afagav Tahavile Prais. So in that case, even though he had permission to go ahead and do it, he had time to go ahead and be matir the nether, nevertheless, he waited until afterwards, and since it was L'tzarech Shabbos, he was allowed to go ahead and be shoyelet on Shabbos, despite the fact that he had opportunity to do it on the Friday afternoon. Fine. And then we said, Shepachu esamor b'taviach b'kashos v'akida b'gemis. So he went ahead, and they clogged up the shutters with a utensil, right? And they tied a 1x1 tefach measuring tool with a reed. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Hiltani Haisa Ben Shtei Batim. There was a small alley between two houses. This is the mice that we're talking about. The two Ma'isa Sham, and somebody was dying there. There was a dead body. Or there was someone who was dying, and what happened? The gigis, turn the pages. The gigis, Saduka Munechas Al Gaban. And there was a cracked barrel in between. So there was two houses, a narrow alleyway, and a barrel basically that touched both houses. And the barrel was sort of open into like the shutters. So I guess they can pass from one to the other, and basically be covered, with the top of the barrel. And anyways, and then the dead body, right, or the corpse, the tumah was underneath this barrel. And therefore the person was dying. They didn't want the tumah to be spread from the barrel into the homes through the shutter, through tumas oil. So what they do, they went ahead and they closed it up with something made of cheres, something made of earthenware, which will stop the tumah, right? The kasharo esamagdin. Then they need to know there was a crack. As we mentioned, it was a cracked barrel. So now, if there's a hole on top of the barrel that's 1 by 1 tefach, then the tumah does not spread tumas ohel through the barrel. Rather, the tumah goes up through the hole, and the tumah does not spread. If the tumah doesn't spread, then there's no concern in the houses. But if the hole was smaller than a tefach, then the tumah basically doesn't go through the small space on top, and the tumah would spread. If the tumah spreads in the barrel through tumas ohel, it would also spread into the houses. So therefore, they need to know, is this crack, right, 1 by 1 or not? So what do they do? Therefore, they went ahead and they tied this something which is 1 by 1 to basically with the gemi and lowered it to know whether there was a hole that was big enough as a 1 by 1 tefach or not. I guess we'll leave off here. I know we said last cycle we were not good with our siyumim, but Mitzvah Hashem, we said this one we will. So Mitzvah Hashem, I'll save the last couple lines for where we decide to make a siyum, if we do it together or if we do it via Zoom. But I know Avrami was actually, he was appointed the officer of siyumim, so we'll have to work that out. But Yishkoyach, everybody. And there's a big chizuk. I believe we started maybe 4 or 5 balat into the Masechta when this Corona started, and we started on Zoom then. And Baruch Hashem, we had not had too many people to fall off. We have to go ahead and contact those who did fall off to let them know new Masechta, new beginning, and re-chazik ourselves to continue. What is it?
And Mazel tov to you, Rebbe.
Mazel tov to everybody.
Mazel tov to you.
We're gonna make a scene for breakfast. My father will be the same. Mazel tov, Shkaya.
Mazel tov, Mazel tov. Yashakar, Rabbi.
I'm so proud of everybody.
Thank you for
It's a difficult timing.